Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Roaming Prepper. I'm your host, Pete, and today I do want to talk about something that's going to get a little more technical, so I'm going to try not to go into the weeds too much. This is more high-level overview. But I want to talk about cyber attacks, and more importantly, and I had to write some notes down just to keep myself organized, the cyber threats in modern warfare, especially in light of what's happening now in the world, right? We have had multiple sources from OSINT basically tell us, hey, look, we're getting an estimate there's 1,000 Al-Qaeda operatives in the country. I actually think that number is low because they're talking about Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is aided and abetted by corporations at some level, I'm sure by the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians. They're not even factoring in cartels and gangs in general, just like American gangs and mafia. So I think the number of operatives who would want to see some level of chaos break out is actually much larger. And keep in mind, even if it's just Al-Qaeda operatives and they go out and do whatever, other bad players will take advantage of the chaos. I promise you, every stalking ex-husband or stalking ex-wife, corrupt cops, gangsters, gangbangers, motorcycle gangs, whatever, take your pick. When the police and military get focused on an external threat within our own borders, I can promise you they're going to take advantage of the situation. And at the end of the day, folks like you and I are going to be caught in the crosshairs. So let's back up. Let's go to 2022. Russia invaded Ukraine, and they have a group called the Sandworm Group. And in 2025, they used their Wiper software to basically screw up Ukraine's grid right in the middle of the winter. And this was actually in 2024 going into 2025. They've been escalating ever since. OSINT has some satellite imagery, and you can check this out on weforum.org. The imagery has helped, the AI has helped coordinate drone attacks, and drone footage is feeding into the AI to make the next drone attack or the next cyber attack more effective. And you're starting to see the integration between kinetic and cyber in a very big way. And it's not on a big scale like we've always known this, like the US has satellites and drones, and you know, we can coordinate F-35s with a destroyer, with an aircraft carrier, with a tank. But this is now being done almost on the infantry level, where a guy like myself with a drone team, we can deploy a bunch of high explosive drones. We get real-time intel from a cyber hack that tells us where a target is. We can feed that into the drones as they're in the air, redirect them to the new target and execute a target. Ukraine's attack on bomber bases 500 miles inside Russia using drones that were deployed near those very air bases speaks volumes of the value of intel. Also, look at look at Israel infiltrating the Hezbollah supply chain and putting small explosives in 5,000 beepers, and then going into Iran and specifically hitting certain apartments in apartment buildings to kill senior leaders. That kind of level of information gets hacked, it gets taken, processed, and then a kinetic strike is executed based on the cyber attack. And it goes the other way. The kinetic intelligence, the aircraft intelligence, feeds into the AI or to the cyber, so they know, oh, this base is still operational, let's hack their radar. So we've seen it. Israel actually hacked Iran's centrifuges and set them all on fire about 7 years ago. Ongoing thing. Israel and Iran, and you can check this on Darktrace, Hezbollah-linked hackers in 2025 breached the Israeli water systems, trying to retaliate against Israel since most of their kinetic people had been injured or killed in the beeper attack. So they also used AI to generate deep fakes, fake emails, fake phone calls, where someone calls, and if you're expecting a call from me, the voice sounds like me. It tells you to do certain things. The person says, well, I'm talking to Pete, and you do whatever it tells you to do, and then you screw something up and you're like, but Pete told me, but I didn't tell you. It was the AI that's imitating me telling you. So very interesting the way that works. Also, North Korea recently, Their Lazarus group recently hacked South Korean banks to punish them for funding research on weapons. Now, there are a few open source intelligence, OSINT platforms you can use. So I wrote them down here. You could look at Recorded Future. You can look at MITRE ATT&CK. You can also check OSAC, the Overseas Advisory Council with State Department. There's also Zero Hedge, Dark Trace, and Fortinet, not Fortnite. Fortnite, I almost said Fortnite, that's a damn video game. Although who knows, there might be intel on Fortnite too, shit. Point being, these cyber attacks are going to be combined with actual kinetic attacks if we get hit in our country. Now remember, they hacked the gas pipeline that went to the East Coast and screwed up the East Coast. Remember, that also happened in the middle of winter. Now, that wasn't by mistake. And the way they got into the Department of Energy to shut down that pipeline is they had previously hacked credit card companies and a small bank. They then hacked a small contractor. From that contractor, they got into a bigger one. From that one, they got into a subcontractor for the DOE. It took the hackers the better part of a year to navigate the different systems until they got into the DOE and they got into a few other federal agencies. On top of that, remember that China, using some domestic students who were spying and also using cyber attacks, managed to try to steal significant blueprints for the F-35 stealth fighter. Now, what they got is anybody's guess, but the bottom line is this is going to be a reality going forward. And if you take Russia-Ukraine as a template, and you take Hamas-Israel as a template and combine them, that would be a devastating attack on the US. The US could handle cyber, the US could handle a kinetic attack, but both happening at once. Imagine that. Imagine a bunch of college students getting a notification, which actually happened recently at the Naval Academy shooting, where the guy went in dressed as a cop, told everyone they had to evacuate, then went outside and tried to shoot the cadets. Imagine that. Imagine a university or an office building, the fire alarm goes off, all the people leave the building, they go out in the street, right? Because you go to your muster point when there's a fire, and there's a shooter waiting out there, and he waits till everyone's out, and he lights up the crowd, right? That's the kind of thing that could happen, and it's kind of horrifying when you start putting all these different types of attacks together in a coherent way. Now, keep in mind, the US is more than capable of doing it back to other countries, and we definitely have kinetic capabilities. So it's a dangerous game, because if we can trace back a hacker group that resulted in American loss of life to a specific country, that would be a great excuse to go and beat the crap out of the country. However, who's to say that Russia won't do something and frame China for it? So we go to war with China, therefore ignoring Russia's stuff in the Ukraine. It gets so complicated, so many rabbit trails. And I could make separate videos. We could do a panel on each of those subjects. But let's talk about, what do? Right? We don't control cybersecurity. We don't control a lot of things. First of all, get familiar with things like phishing, with a PH. Phishing, where you get an email that's fictitious. Smishing, where you get a text that says, oh, click here, or your package is late. Also, you get phone calls telling you, oh, your bank account. Keep in mind, AI can be used to mimic people you love. So you get a phone call from your granddaughter saying, or your sister or somebody you love saying, oh my God, send $5,000 to this link or they're gonna kill me. And your loved one is actually at work, quite safe in the kitchen in the cafeteria having a coffee, but you don't know that. So there's certain things we can do. One, be familiar with smishing, which is the text attacks, phishing. Also, make sure you keep your passwords secure. I'd recommend changing them every now and then. It's up to you how you want to do it. It's important to also have two-factor authentication. So if you log into your bank account, it then sends a text to the designated phone or device saying, was this really you? And then you have to take that code and enter it into the same computer. Well, if someone tries to gets my login credentials from my bank, tries to log in as me, and I get a text saying, hey, this is your code. Well, that guy didn't clearly get the code, I did. Also remember, most banks and financial institutions will not call you and tell you to reset your password and then ask you for the confirmation code. Don't do that. If you have any questions, you think something got compromised, go to a fresh screen, delete any emails that are suspicious, go to a fresh web screen and log in directly. Alternately, you can just go to the bank and make sure that everything is secure. I would recommend having an offline hard copy, like a 1 terabyte drive with important papers, photocopies, and any documents you may need. I personally also try to keep hard copies. Now, I sometimes fall behind because I get busy, but I try to keep hard copies of insurance papers, IDs, and I keep that in my safe. So I have not only a backup small drive in my safe with my bug out book, but I also have backups online as well in the event I happen to be remote and I need to access something. You can approach it a lot of different ways. Also, keep in mind, if you're going to put cyber locks like these internet Bluetooth locks or Wi-Fi locks on your house, have a key backup option. I literally had an IT guy in my neighborhood message the whole neighborhood on Facebook saying, does anyone know a locksmith? I'm locked out. The internet went down and I can't use my phone to open my door. And the first response the neighbors gave was, well, don't you have the key backup? And he goes, no, it's fully automated. And we're like, well, now you're screwed. He left the house. We had a power outage, just a normal one. There was a thunderstorm. It kicked his Wi-Fi down, and now he couldn't get into his own home. This was an IT professional with a master's degree and couldn't figure that out. I will tell you right now, I've spoken to some IT people and they go to two extremes. One extreme is back up anything you want offline, have hard copies because shit can happen. The other group is, no, we have so many redundancies, it'll never happen. And those guys scare the hell out of me because they are overconfident. Not that we should be paranoid, but you gotta be smart. So remember, be familiar with the types of hacking, phishing, fraud that can go on, including phone calls, AI calls, and emails. Have physical backups of important papers. Have cash on hand if you can do so, if it's within your budget. And make sure that if you have any questions, don't click anything suspicious, delete it. And if you have to log in from a different device to your bank or to your mortgage or whatever it is, and just go and verify that everything is cool. If you think your credit cards are compromised, call the credit card company. Say, hey, I think my card's been compromised. I'm getting suspicious emails and texts. They will cancel the card, issue you a new one, and the sooner you report it, the better, because if the bad player actually buys anything with it, which has happened to me. I lost a credit card on a trip years ago. I called it in the minute I realized it. And he's like, well, when did you last use it? I said, I used it at this gas station on this day because I remember this stuff. And he said, okay, did you purchase, $300 at whatever? And I said, no, I didn't do that. He said, okay, so we're going to consider that fraud. We're not going to charge you for it and we'll investigate. And sure enough, they called me back and said, no, that was definitely not you because you were in Texas and the person who bought that, Xbox for $500 was in Cleveland. Clearly that was not you. So the sooner you report it, the better. Also, again, use passwords you can remember, but that are somewhat complicated. Do not use password 123. Please, for the love of God. I thought that was a joke, and they actually showed me that a lot of people use password 123, email 123, password, the name of their dog, just dumb things. Come up with something oddball. Make it hard for these sons of bitches to get there. And the bottom line is, if something happens, have that backup. Don't panic. Two-factor authentication. These are steps we can take when dealing with cybersecurity threats. Now, talking about the kinetic side of terrorism, that will be a different video for a different day. But anyway, that's it for the cyber threats and things we need to watch. And remember, things will happen before something big happens. Watch for those hacks. Watch for these weird power outages. Electricity going down, grids going down, water and power, sewage going down and getting hacked. And when they say we had technical issues at the airport, I think that's their code word for we got hacked, but we don't want to tell the public because they'll freak out. Anyway, folks, you be good, be safe, be careful out there, and let's all try to do the things we can to protect ourselves and our loved ones from this kind of attack. And pay attention, because those things will lead to other things. The next conflict, whatever it may be, is going to be a hybridization of the cyber, the kinetic, the people, the intel, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be integrated and it'll be ugly. But if you know it's coming and you understand what's going on and the signs and symptoms of it, you're going to be better prepared to get through it. Not to scare you, but to make you think. And remember, make common sense protective steps for yourself. We'll see you on the next video, guys.